Bolivia's President Luis Arce received the Vice President-elect of Colombia, France Marquez, at the Casa Grande del Pueblo headquarters of the nation's government. Kosovo authorities postponed for a month the application of the ban on Serbian documents and license plates in its territory. The United Nations organization warned that humanity is on the brink of a nuclear catastrophe and is currently facing a highly dangerous level of danger at a conference on the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Bolivia's President Luis Arce received the Vice President-elect of Colombia, France Marquez, at the Casa Grande del Pueblo headquarters of the nation's government. The President of Bolivia assured that the country embraces France Marquez with affection and friendship, while assuring that the winds from the south are blowing strongly and strengthening the great continent homeland. Marquez is expected to discuss with Luis Arce the government program to be developed by the administration of Colombia's President-elect Gustavo Petro and the challenges ahead. Prior to his meeting with the President of Bolivia, France Marquez, together with the Bolivian Vice President David Choquehuanca, and indigenous representatives paid tribute to the Pachamama in the Murillo Square in the city of La Paz. Referring to Marquez's visit, former President Evo Morales expressed through his Twitter account, "Welcome to Bolivia's sister Vice President of Colombia, France Marquez, the people, the poor, the vilified, and the historical marginalized who promoted here a new country with the hope of equality and racial justice. We salute you as a worthy leader of this cause." Teachers' unions in Panama discussed with bases the agreements reached on education at the single dialogue table with a view to end the sector strike. The teachers reportedly agreed with the Panamanian Ministry of Education the end of the strike and a gradual increase of 6% of the gross domestic product by the end of 2024. The Association of Educators of Veraguense stated that the decision could guarantee the return to classes as from Tuesday, August 2nd, with a restructured school year to conclude in December, and explained that the document must establish that no reprisals will be taken against teachers, directors, supervisors, and other educational personnel that participated in the strike. In Colombia, systematic violence continues 1 week before the inauguration of the new administration. Just this year, a total of 58 violent incidents have been reported. According to the Institute for Peace and Development Studies, in the past, during this past weekend, 3 massacres were registered in the country. According to the report of the aforementioned non-governmental organization, 3 young people, including 2 minors, were found Friday with bullet wounds at an abandoned urbanization known as Altos de las Minas in the municipality of La Jagua de Ibirico, in the department of Cesar. In another incident, 3 young men lost their lives in the municipality of Sincelejo, Sucre, during a police raid following the murder of a patrol officer in the area. Meanwhile, this Sunday, 5 people were killed inside a house in the neighborhood of Ciudadela Grajales in the municipality of La Unión, Valle del Cauca. Thousands of women marched in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday demanding more government support for marginalized black women. Many displayed traditional clothes and dances to music related to Brazil's African history, while chanting and holding banners for the fight for rights and dignity of black women. Next to Copacabana Beach, the march marked the 8th Black Women's March after a 2-year break because of the pandemic. It raised awareness of women's issues just a few months before national elections, where women voters are expected to play a key role in choosing the country's next president. According to the latest polls, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva leads President Jair Bolsonaro by double digits, especially among women.
The blacker we are, the more racism we have to endure. Not a day goes by without a black woman being discriminated against, whether it be the most violent form of racism or a covert one, both hurt the same.
The government of Argentina is undergoing an economic restructuring with the announcement of new measures and new ministerial appointees. Through Twitter, former Congress Whip Sergio Massa said that he has appointed a new Secretary of Finance and the Undersecretary of Budget in charge of taxes as part of the restructuring measure announced. Massa said that this week he will be announcing the names of those chosen to be part of his team at the Department of National Economy. This comes after President Alberto Fernandez's last Thursday announcement of the merger of the Ministries of Economy, Productive Development, Agriculture, Livestock and Fishing, as well as the appointment of Sergio Massa as new Economy Minister in order to provide an effective response to the current inflation crisis in the country. The Anglophone Caribbean countries celebrate Monday the Emancipation Day, which marks the 188th anniversary of the abolition of slavery. The event also marks the abolition of apprenticeship in 1838, a system which forced formerly enslaved people to continue to work uncompensated for their former masters. British slave traders kidnapped an estimated 3.1 million people along the west coast of Africa, trafficked them across the Atlantic Ocean, and subjected them to forced labor and torture on the colonial plantations that enriched the British crown. British colonial legislation codified racial differences between the white planter class and enslaved Africans, and regulated slaves' behavior through harsh slave codes. We're going to take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. The Russian government held on Monday the departure of the first bulk carrier with Ukrainian grain from the port of Odessa. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov pointed out at a press conference that the departure of the ship is a positive development, as it is an opportunity to demonstrate the effectiveness of the mechanisms agreed upon at the negotiations in Istanbul. The spokesman also expressed his hope that all the agreements reached will be complied with. Moscow also assured that it had signed a memorandum with the UN to contribute to the export of Russian fertilizers and agricultural products to the international markets. This departure comes after Turkey and Ukraine signed an agreement with the United Nations on July 22nd, which proposed to unblock the export of grain and fertilizers from Kiev in the midst of the current conflict.
This is very important and very welcome first step, and we look forward to the implementation of the whole deal and resumption of Ukrainian exports to the customers all around the world where they need it, because the negative consequences of Russia's aggression against Ukraine and blockage of Ukrainian ports are affecting the most vulnerable people in Africa, in Asia and in Middle East.
Kosovo authorities decided to postpone for a month the application of the ban on Serbian documents and license plates in its territory after the tensions lit on Sunday night at two border points between the two countries. According to the communique issued by the government of Prime Minister Albin Kurti, this decision conditions the removal of the barricades set up by the local Serbs in protest against the measure. They also point out that the decision was taken after a meeting with the U.S. ambassador to Kosovo, Jeffrey Hovenier. On his part, the Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić is working to calm the situation and stressed the request to international representatives to help Kosovo to abandon these measures. Serbs began dismantling roadblocks in the north of the self-proclaimed Republic of Kosovo after its authorities postponed for a month a ban on Serbian identity cards and license plates. Protests broke out in northern Kosovo on Sunday night within hours of the measure coming into force. Authorities justified the measure by saying it is symmetrical to restrictions in Serbia. Belgrade, which does not acknowledge Kosovo as an independent state, is forcing the change of Kosovar license plates and issuing temporary identity cards to holders of papers issued in the self-proclaimed republic. Kosovo, populated mostly by Albanians, proclaimed unilateral independence in 2008 and is acknowledged by the US, Canada and most European Union members countries, but not by Serbia, Russia, China, Spain, Greece, Iran and among others. Beijing reiterates warnings that to U.S. saying a visit by Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan will have serious consequences. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Xiao Lijian warned that the Asian giant will respond firmly to what it considers a provocation and that the U.S. will have to assume all the consequences arising from the possible visit. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi kicks off on Monday an Asia tour that has been shrouded in secrecy following an escalation in tensions with China over Taiwan. Pelosi stopped first in Singapore, where Prime Minister Lee Hsien-loong urged her to strive for stable ties with Beijing. Her itinerary also includes Malaysia, South Korea, and Japan.
If House Speaker Pelosi goes to Taiwan, it would be a gross interference in China's internal affairs. It will seriously damage China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, will trample on the One China principle, seriously threaten the peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait, seriously undermine Sino-US relations, and will lead to a very serious situation and to very serious consequences.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The United Nations Organization opens the 10th Review Conference to the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. During the opening speech to the event, the Secretary General of the International Organization, Antonio Guterres, affirmed that the world is not out of nuclear danger and called on the leaders of the nations to take into account the serious moment they are facing. Guterres also pointed out that competition is overtaking cooperation and that, in his opinion, mistrust has replaced dialogue. The UN Secretary General assured that the world is only one misunderstanding or miscalculation away from nuclear war, and warned that a nuclear non-proliferation treaty is more necessary than ever.
We need the treaty of non-proliferation of nuclear weapons as much as ever. And that is why this review conference is so important. It's an opportunity to hammer out the measures that will help avoid certain disaster, and to put humanity on a new path towards a world free of nuclear weapons. It is also a chance to strengthen this treaty and make it fit for the worrying world around us.
2 protesters were shot dead by the South African police on Monday during a demonstration against rising utility prices. The protest took place in the township of Tembisa in the east of the South African economic capital Johannesburg, where angry residents, particularly over electricity prices, blocked roads with burning tires and set fire to a public building. A police spokeswoman said there were 2 fatal injuries in the protest action. A wave of protest is swelling in South Africa, the most developed economy on the African continent, but plagued by unemployment and crime. The summer of 2021 saw a wave of riots and large-scale looting unprecedented in 30 years, which left 350 dead. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was outraged by the death of 2 men when peacekeepers opened fire at a border post with Uganda in the troubled Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo on Sunday. According to a statement read by UN Secretary General's deputy spokesman Farhan Haq, Guterres stressed in the strongest terms the need to establish accountability for these kinds of events, and he endorsed the detention of military personnel involved in this incident and an immediate inquiry into the incident. In a video of the incident shared on social media, the men, one dressed as a police officer and the other as a Congolese soldier, are seen advancing towards the convoy stopped on the other side of the closed fence in Kasindi, in the territory of Beni, on the border with Uganda. After a verbal exchange, the alleged peacekeepers are seen firing shots before opening the gate and crossing the post. Another 14 people are said to have been injured in the incident. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta on Sunday officially inaugurated the iconic Nairobi Expressway months after it's been successfully tested. The 27.1-kilometer highway connects Nairobi to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Along the way, it passes several landmarks in the capital city, including the Central Business District, the Parliament Building, and the presidential offices. By using the expressway, motorists are expected to reduce the time they spend in the traffic from 3 hours to less than 20 minutes. The Nairobi Expressway was financed and built by a Chinese company under a public-private partnership model.
The Nairobi Expressway has been open for trials, and it has already proved its worth. It has ushered in an era of reduced travel time and increased mobility, and an era of reduced congestion and enhanced productivity. This singular project basically secures Nairobi's status as the region's capital, as well as the region's economic nerve center, and therefore strengthening Kenya's position as East and Central Africa's commercial and diplomatic hub.
On Sunday, Portugal battled major forest fires as temperatures rose sharply this weekend. Around 400 firefighters were drafted to combat a blaze that broke out in the Mafra area 40 kilometers north of Lisbon. Elsewhere, other major fire outbreaks raged in northern and central Portugal, requiring over 1,000 firefighters. Portugal's Civil Protection Authority recommends people living near forest areas to host their gardens to try to slow the advance of the flames. Some resource and retirement homes have been evacuated as a preventive measures. Portugal had been placed on alert over the weekend in the face of steep temperature rises to more than 40 degrees Celsius, and according to the Meteorological Institute, such temperatures may last until Thursday. At least 24 people were killed in Uganda due to floods and landslides caused by heavy rains in the east of the country. According to the Red Cross, hundreds of homes as well as vehicles and crops were flooded and several roads in the affected districts had to be cut. Prime Minister Robin Ndabaga visited the affected areas and said the executive is in contact with the Uganda Defense Forces and the police to send officials to the site and continue with the search and rescue operations. And TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and unfaithfulness to our audience. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.